common denominator. And when that means producing content, so in my desktop publishing example, it means producing content that's not as good or producing it not as efficiently, but in a way that doesn't require you to become a hardcore programmer, then there are always going to be people that choose that solution instead of going with the scary stuff.
Gotcha. So thinking about this shift that's happened, I noticed you talking about using PageMaker and doing print-based publishing early on in your consulting days or your freelance days, and now we're talking about XML and automatic transforms that happen instantaneously. That's a big shift, but what it really hasn't changed over the past 20 years? What's pretty much been a constant?
I think the constant is that people hate change, and those of us who go into consulting tend to think it's kind of fun. And you have to remember as a consultant that thinking that change is entertaining makes you an extreme outlier and not part of the sort of normal community. So that has not changed. Human nature has not changed.
So we're abnormal.
Yes, we are. The other thing is that you have to remember when you look at some of these tools that in many cases the pain of using them, the pain of having to learn them, goes to the technical writer or the content creator or whatever that job title is. You know, they suffer through all the pain of dealing with XML. The benefit of XML or any other tool that you're learning typically goes to management. You know, they get faster, more efficient, better globalization, whatever. Right. So if I'm the content creator, what you're essentially saying is, I want you to create content in a way that's more painful for you because it's better for the business. That's actually a pretty hard sell.
Especially when those content creators have invested so much time and energy in learning all the arcane aspects of these tools.
Mm-hmm. No, I can see that. I remember even back in the standard desktop publishing days, when we made a big shift from Interleaf to FrameMaker, there was a lot of resistance there, simply because they had to, all the writers had to learn a new tool and be proficient in it in a very short period of time in order to keep things moving forward.
So Bill, I mean, you've only been in, sort of abnormal consulting land for maybe half your career. What's your perspective on this, looking at it, I wouldn't say as an outsider, but I think you have a little bit of a different perspective on this than we do, coming from 20 years of consulting fun.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that, you've pretty much hit some of the big changes that are out there and some of the constants. And the big one is it's change management is something that, has been around, has been a need throughout. As far as what's driving the changes and seeing what the different needs are, it really does come down to both the pervasiveness of the web and the need to deploy global content, but also there's also a need internally to better manage a lot of information, especially as a lot of this content is being developed by many different groups. And I think companies are coming to the realization that they are sharing a lot more content, or duplicating a lot more content than they, I should say they're duplicating a lot more content than they need to, and they want to be able to share this content more. That's something that I've seen even as a captive employee or a captive manager, so to speak. When management comes down, or senior management comes down and says, we need to be a lot more efficient in how we produce this stuff. We have problems where the tech support information is not matching what's in the technical documentation, and that varies from what marketing and sales are putting out in the field. It's a real business problem, and they're not exactly sure how to solve it. Usually they'll come down and say, hey, you have to really talk to these groups more and make sure that you get your information correct. But at the end of the day, if the information or the content is not being managed itself better, it makes it a lot more difficult to be able to communicate those changes, because you're never sure if two people in the same meeting necessarily hear the same thing. So they may go off and do two very different things to solve two different aspects of the same problem. So being able to share a lot of this content more, really is becoming a stronger driver. So there's been a lot of technological change happening over the past 20 years that changed the way companies view their content and how they need to publish and manage this content. How about how either online communities or how writers and technical specialists and so forth communicate and collaborate globally over the web or what have you? I know early in the day we had various listservs, for example, how I met you guys initially. How has that kind of environment changed over the past 20 years?